Welcome to the Leading Hope Podcast with Kevin Jack. Your influence will lead people somewhere, lead them towards hope. Everyone has 20 minutes to learn to become a better leader. Make it count.
Welcome to Leading Hope with Kevin Jack. I'm your host, VJ Williams, here with my friend and pastor, Kevin Jack. Thank you for joining us and taking time out of your day to become a better leader. We release a new episode every Wednesday, so we'd love for you to share on social media and bring others along with us on this journey of becoming a better leader. Visit leadinghope.online to get updates and find out more about the Leading Hope community. If you're new to the podcast and haven't yet subscribed, it'd mean the world to us if you did that now. Also post about it, rate and review. You will not believe how that gets this podcast in the hands of so many more leaders just like you. And today, Kevin, I am pumped to talk about this new topic of joy. It's a brand new day, and it's a brand new, we're not calling this a series, but it is a new episode.
It's a series.
We're
just talking about joy for the next couple of weeks.
Just talking about joy for the next few weeks. It's a new concept, and I'm excited because you've entitled this one, Episode 56, False Prophets.
While you were saying we'd love to have you as part of the leadership journey, I accidentally activated Siri on my watch, and it came back with, I'm not sure I understand. So that was hopefully not an omen for how this episode is going to go in its entirety.
That's great.
So for the next couple weeks, we're talking about joy and joy in leadership. And we are doing a series on weekends at Be Hope Church on joy. And so a lot of this is parallel content that invokes some of the same principles that we're covering on the weekends. Obviously, on the weekends, we take far more of a spiritual and relationship with God tone to our conversation, where here, this is applications within leadership. But I just want to say, hey, at the start, I would encourage you to be a part of that. We kicked off the series this past weekend. And so if you kind of want to take this further on joy and you hadn't engaged in that, to be a part of that and see everything that's happening. And one of the things that's at the heart of this for me is, and why we would do a carryover content into the leadership podcast, is because I think we fundamentally misunderstood some of the reasons in which we lead. So we're going to take 4 weeks and we're going to talk about it. And for many people, what they think is the purpose of leadership is profit, P-R-O-F-I-T, not P-H.
It's not like fat with a P-H.
Yeah, it's the opposite.
Gotcha.
It's profit without the P-H.
Gotcha. I like it.
And so some of the conversations on profit is the purpose of leadership is profit, to increase cash flow, to increase net income, to increase efficiency, and say, hey, we need a better output for the time we've spent in, to increase productivity, or to increase stakeholder value. And we would say there's just a lens that most people look at leadership through that says, hey, we've got to increase whatever it is that ends up on the bottom line as P-R-O-F-I-T. And here's my response to that.
Oh,
that sucks. That just does. And if I tell you, I want to do let's go way deep on this in a hurry.
That's deep.
No kid ever wanted to lead because of those things. You may have led as a kid. You may have led when you were a teenager. I don't mean you had a position. I mean you were just a leader. You moved things in a direction. You rallied people together. At no point in time did you ever go, man, I want to lead. I want to be president. I want to, all those things that children think, because I want to increase profit. Come on, if I get Allen Iverson it. We're talking about profit. Profit. Not the real thing.
Not joy.
No.
Not joy.
Not
talking
joy.
About profit.
It's profit. And if I go out, one of my favorite movies of all time is Big with Tom Hanks.
Oh, yeah.
And it's, if you don't know the context, Tom Hanks goes from a kid to an adult in a day through this weird whatever thing that takes place. And it's just like he enters into the adult world and is still trying to hang out with his kid friends. And his kid friends are like, you suck. Like, you as an adult are boring. And it's this like call to all of us of going, man, sometimes who we became as adults is never who we would set out to be. And I just want to share that to go like, man, if that's why you're leading, if the thing that's getting you up in the morning is to go stakeholder value, if that's your game, if you're a manager, increase efficiency, increase cash flow, increase net income, how boring. Like, what? And I'm like, I don't want you to have like a midlife crisis as you're driving down the road on your way to work. You go, wow, I was hoping like for a little edge in leadership, a little pick me up. Now I'm just gonna U-turn it right here, and I'm gonna go back home. Don't do that. Keep listening, okay? I just think that. Well, and one of my fundamental beliefs is I believe that leadership is a sacrifice. I believe that leadership is a price that you pay for the benefit of something else, whatever that is. And if you're sacrificing for corporate cash flow, like, oh, that's such a terrible reason. That's such a terrible reason to make that sacrifice. And those, I believe, are the false prophets of leadership. The prophets that don't matter and that aren't worth leading, aren't worth making that sacrifice for. And so this is what I wrote in my notes. If profit is your purpose, you're always going to struggle for passion. If profit is your purpose, you're always going to struggle for passion. Now, here's the disclaimer. You may end up focusing on efficiency or cash flow or productivity or any of those other things, but that is your how, not your why. That is the vehicle, the means, the focus that you're seeking to increase the other thing. It can't be the thing. It has to be the thing that gets at the other thing. And in the series on joy, one of the things that we covered in the first week was just the idea that, like, for people in their faith, they often have, Jesus speaks of it like, hey, you'll have fruit. There will be something that will come out of this. No one has an apple tree because they like the look of the apple tree. You have an apple tree to get apples. Like, as part of your faith, there will be a fruit to it. And we said, for a lot of us in our faith, we got the wrong fruit. Like, we thought the fruit was morality, or we thought the fruit was righteousness, and that's not the fruit. So let's get a better reason, okay? Because we want you to lead. We obviously believe that you should lead and that you have an ability, a gifting, and a calling to lead. But let's get a better reason to why we lead. And so this is my belief, that the purpose of leadership is to increase joy. The purpose of leadership is to increase joy. And that might be too foofy for you. Like foofy. You may, yeah, there you go. How about that?
I like it.
It's a joy series. Yes, I could use words like foofy. This is fun.
Yes.
You may go like, oh man, like I can't say that. They're like, oh, why am I here? Joy. There's the infamous scene from our favorite show, Ted Lasso, yes, in which the one person is trying to figure out who she can have do different marketing things. And you go, I would need to know what you care about as a player, because that'll have the best carryover to the products that you market. And she pulls in Danny Rojas, who is one of the most fun people on the show. Danny, what do you like? And he goes, I love joy. I just love joy. Okay, I don't know how we're going to market that, but that's good to know. And you may feel silly about that, to go, why am I leading? To increase joy. Let me show you what Simon Sinek says about this. He says in his book, The Infinite Game, so many leaders, even some of the best intentioned ones, often ask, how do I get the most out of my people? That is a flawed question. It's not a question about how to help our people grow stronger. It's about extracting more output from them. People are not like wet towels to be wrung out. They're not objects from which we can squeeze every last drop of performance. The answer to such a question might yield more output for a time, but it often comes at a cost of our people into the culture in the longer term. Such an approach will never generate feelings of love and commitment. A better question to ask is, how do I create an environment in which my people can work to their natural best? And what he's saying in that statement is everything that we have said so far, is to go, if the reason why you're leading is to wring out the towel of your people or prophets or squeeze every last drop out of it, it's not only is it not a good question, it's going to have long-term disastrous effects. But when you create an environment in which people can work to their natural best, you create a culture of joy. People want to do good work. People want to operate in their areas of gifting. People want to work for something that matters more. And so what he's basically saying is like, if you're going for one of the profits that are short term that no one really cares about at the end of the day, if you move on to the next company, the next job, you're not staying up at night thinking, oh, what's their cash flow? Oh, how's their productivity? He said, no. Let's create cultures of joy. There's this great story. I've been listening to this podcast by Michael Lewis. Michael Lewis, author, wrote on a number of different things. And he has this podcast, and it's about the latest season is on coaches. And he tells this story about when he was growing up and playing baseball, and how he had this coach who was always so hard and difficult, and people were afraid of him, but the kind of coach that you would run through a wall for.
Oh.
And he said that one day he was called out to pitch, and the coach said some words to him, and the coach is looking at him as he's pitching, and he describes this feeling of like, all of a sudden, he took the coach's confidence in him into himself. Like, it was no longer his confidence that he was operating under. It was the coach's confidence in him that he was operating under. And just say, I felt like I could do no wrong. I felt like I could do anything. I felt like I could throw the ball 100 miles an hour. And it's this beautiful description of just going, even though the guy was difficult and he was a little bit afraid of him,
yeah,
he all of a sudden felt like he could live up to his coach's beliefs in him and performed at a far higher level than he ever would have on his own. And here's my guess.
That's good.
Here's my guess, is you have that story. I hope you have that story, because if you don't have that story, I'm sorry somebody didn't surround you at an earlier time. But my guess is that most of us have a story of when someone believed in us so much or pushed us so much, and we may have been afraid of them at some point in time, but that they pushed us to a higher level. And there is a massive difference between someone who is extracting output to increase the bottom line and someone who is pushing us to the upper limits of our potential. And when we experience the latter, what we experience is joy. So you may for a little bit become focused on efficiency or productivity or coaching people or increasing cash flow in order to take on the next opportunity. But I want to just like push this upon you, if I could, to say, let the reason why you do it be joy. Your joy in what you get to do and the growth of those around you. Their joy in realizing they can break past boundaries and do things that they didn't believe that they could do before. The joy of your team as they take on new obstacles. Don't do it for the false prophets. Do it for joy.
Yep. Absolutely. Yep. All of that. Man, first of all, you are not a wet towel to be wrung out.
Thank you.
I just wanted to let you know that.
I appreciate that.
In case anybody was wondering. But that actually is really a good analogy if you think about it.
Oh, absolutely.
From various jobs throughout the history of my life, you can see the people that were there. And man, you see this all the time too, right? You see this in different management positions, especially middle management, where they're not quite up in executive level, but they're above the folks on the floor, right? And they're trying to squeeze out every last dime for that productivity and efficiency and cash flow. And it's funny and they might even actually get there, but over time, longevity, man, you are it's a dying trend. Eventually that will run out. And the more the people here, talk about it this way. Is purpose synonymous with joy? There's the question.
Can be.
Okay.
But if you have the wrong purpose, it won't lead towards joy. If you have no purpose, I don't think there will be joy.
Yeah.
But if you have the wrong purpose, there won't necessarily be joy.
Do you think that that an individual's purpose can help someone else find their joy?
Oh, no doubt about it.
Okay.
I love there's a statement that I just shared with our team not that long ago from Donald Miller that he says, sometimes you have to see someone else love something in order to fall in love with it yourself.
It's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
That's just, that hits it right where it really is. It's because you see people that, we talked about this earlier today. There's people that are in positions in which they continue doing the same thing, thinking that they're going to change the outcome of that thing, and they never find their actual reason for doing it, which is what you said just a little bit ago. Talk more about that. Talk more about the why and not the how.
Oh, so at the end of the day to go, man, you may have to be focused on, we need to get more efficient in this area. You may have to focus of going, we need to increase quality in this area. But if that is what is driving you, like, that's boring.
Yeah.
Like it is, it's boring. And to go, no one wants to operate inefficient. That's not fun either. No one wants to go, this is the, like, I don't want us to ever get to a spot to go, well, that's the best podcast we ever did.
Yeah.
It's all downhill from here.
Yep.
Like, we hit the ceiling.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll hit it again, but we're never going above that. Like, that's not fun.
No.
It isn't at all.
No.
And so, like, those things will be a part of the conversation, but they can't ever be the thing that is driving the conversation. If you make more money, ready, let's just get real serious with people for a moment.
Do it.
If you make more money but lose your joy, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
If you expand your business but lose the delight that you have in the work that you're doing, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
It isn't. And so you do it for joy.
Yeah.
And if ever the cart comes before the horse, the tail begins wagging the dog, you have missed it in leadership, and you've allowed the wrong prophet to drive the direction.
Yeah, you start out a lot of times, I agree. You start out a lot of times, you're so excited about the new opportunity of the new position that you take. Everyone has started at wherever you're working, wherever you're leading, you started somewhere.
Yeah.
And at some point in that time, you decided that, hey, I want to help this company organization get better. But the thing that actually, and I keep talking about longevity because I think it's so important. The things that actually make it actually last is the joy that you see from the people you're leading. Mm-hmm. Not even, that's the joy. The joy comes from that. And man, so many times we see people in their particular environments struggling because they're not finding that pathway to the joy of the people they're leading.
Mm-hmm. And it's such a weird conversation to go, what are we doing as leaders? Increasing joy.
Yeah.
No, come on. Like, what are we actually doing as leaders? No, that's what we're legitimately after at the end of the day. Whatever your context for leadership is, whether it's office, whether it's school, like, oh my goodness, as a teacher to go, you're not just teaching kids rote memorization. You're at the end of the day teaching them how to think, how to process complex information, and how to apply that to the rest of their lives. You are after their joy. They may be after an A or a C-.
Yeah.
But you are after their joy. And don't ever make that trade one for the other because it's not worth it.
Last question for you.
Last question of the day.
Here we go. We know that you are after the people that you lead's joy.
Yeah.
Just like God is after our joy, right?
Accurate.
We learn that from God.
Yeah.
What are you trying to do? Because obviously productivity and all those things, it's not that they're not important. It's just
Accurate.
That's not where you start. So what are some of the strategies you're employing to make those things joyous, joyful, fun, interactive, things people can get behind? Is there something
that's good.
you're
Some practical implementation
what are you
things.
doing to say, hey, we're not just going to have this 45-minute meeting where we talk about these numbers. We're actually going to make it fun. We're going to make it meaningful, and we're going to actually accomplish that in a joyous way.
So small things. One of them is to go, I start everything with purpose. So you go, this is why we're here. I don't want you to get lost on this. I want you to know every meeting, hey, this is what this meeting's about. I did it. I've already had 2 meetings today. Did it on both. This is why we're doing this. Hey, This is why we're gathering together for this. This is what I'm hoping is coming out of that. I am always cautious to ensure that I'm taking people's opinions and thoughts into the conversation. Meetings are not one-way communication. Meetings are me talking, hopefully at max, 25% of the time, based upon how many people are in the meeting. If there's a bunch of people, 25% of the time, but to do a lot of listening, so make sure people are shaping the direction and ability to share. I think one of the hard things to note in this is we say we are after people's joy, not their ease.
Yes.
Their joy, not their comfort. So that doesn't mean we don't push them or call them into uncomfortable things, but that every decision that we are making, we are doing it with the benefit of not just the whole, but the benefit of the individual.
Yeah.
So I go like, I don't believe that we sacrifice. I don't ever believe we sacrifice the whole for the individual, but I also don't believe that we sacrifice the individual for the whole.
Yes.
And so we go, if this isn't best for you and all of us, or if this isn't best for all of us and for you, then there's got to be another option.
Yeah.
Like, we're not going to limit our imagination on this, because if I'm after your joy doesn't come at the expense of everyone else's joy. They should be able to work together.
That's fantastic. I just pulled up behope.church/notes. And one of the things that you put in there is joy inverts heavy and light. And that's exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Is that it can take something that is uncomfortable and make it useful and productive. And I love that part, man. Is there anything you want to wrap up episode 56? What do you got for us?
Don't let 7-year-old version of you want to smack adult version of you upside the head. Can we say that? Like, as an employee, a manager, a parent, a friend, a sibling, even a child. Like, don't let 7-year-old version of you get transported to the future, look at you and what you're doing and go, bah, that sucks. Like, do it for joy. Do it for the same reason. Your methods have been refined. Hopefully you're more mature than you were at 7. But, oh man, have a reason for why you live that is worth living for.
Woo! Man, I'm pumped up for some joy. This is great. Episode 56. Thank you guys for joining us for the False Prophets today. Thank you for all that you guys have been doing lately, for sharing this online. It's been crazy to hear all the awesome stories. If you're new to the podcast or haven't yet subscribed, it means the world to us if you did that now. Also post about it, rate and review, or both. You won't believe how that helps get this podcast in the hands of so many more leaders like you. And like I said, we love hearing your stories of how the podcast is working in your life or your business. If you have a story, visit leadinghope.online and send that to us. We'd love to hear from you. And Kevin, remember, everyone has 20 minutes to learn to become a better leader. Make it count.